You're listening to the Betoota Advocate's Weekly News Wrap on Desert Rock FM 96.5.
And welcome to the Betoota News Bulletin for the week ending on the 3rd of May. I'm Clancy Errol, editor of the Betoota Advocate.
And my name is Errol Parker. Yes, welcome back. For the second week in a row, Clancy and I are running this because Wendell, Hussey and Bruce Hitchcock are still on holidays.
Yeah, still on holidays, as we said last week that we would be giving them extended time just so long as they're back on deck for the election, which is getting closer now. In local news, we had some beautiful photos come out of Mount Leonard Station, surrounded by water. ABC actually beat us to the mark on that one. Our drone was broken. But, you know, that's just how it goes. It's good that we have a bit of competition, or else we would be doing the very least.
What's the first article we have this week, Clancy?
First story this week is Pauline Hanson. She's been in the news a lot, been in our newspaper a lot. The story we ran was, I've had a gutful of being unfairly targeted, says extremely fair and measured politician.
Well, I don't think she is extremely fair and measured. I think she's actually quite racist.
Pauline is under siege at the moment. As we've all learned, it's the old white men in her party that have caused her so much grief over the years, from David Oldfield, of course, to the 20 different candidates she's gotten elected who have left her party within the 18 months of that happening.
Well, enough of that lunatic and on to another completely different brand of lunacy. Clancy, the second headline that we have in the bulletin is rural nightclub admits they love a bit of violence in their venue, installs Bundy on tap. And for those listening at home who haven't had the pleasure of enjoying a tankard, schooner, or even midi glass or pot glass of Bundy rum, draft Bundy rum and tap, I don't think you've lived yet.
Yeah, definitely. It's many nicknames for this particular brew. Some were calling it the Mate Hater. Some were calling it the Biff Syrup. It brings an interesting side out of many Australian men and women, but, you know, in the regional town centres, mining and agriculture, a predominant population of men drinking together, and they're drinking this shit, it does get violent, as we've seen time and time again. Yeah,
it is quite a peculiar feeling, Clancy, after you've downed 10 pints of this stuff. It almost feels like you've been electrocuted with this sugarcane champagne coursing through your veins. Even the police would understand if you tore off someone's head.
Yeah, you got a little bit punchy.
Yeah,
you do get a bit punchy, and you know every town's got their regional nightclub. Of course, in Broken Hill they've got the Night Train, commonly referred to as the Fight Train. In Rockhampton they've got Zodiac. Bathurst is the Oxford Tavern.
Yeah. Well, I haven't felt anything like it since we did those bath salts on your bucks.
Yes, that was an interesting one, and actually that was sold to us legally, but it obviously ended up being part of all those synthetic drugs that were arguably worse. And yes, we got violent on them, but Bundaberg rum's just as bad, I imagine. The Bundy draft, particularly. You have 12 of them. I mean, imagine having 12 cans of Coke at home. You'd go funny, throw a bit of rum on top of that, and you get violent.
Well, speaking of violence, Clancy, this next headline we have up is Year 6 excursion to Canberra, more of a warning about where you could end up if you don't study hard.
Yes. Heading into the obvious election, we are seeing a lot of people are worried about their incomes because, you know, in the public service, particularly down there in the trough in Canberra, public service and in the elected positions, there's a lot of people that actually, would be rendered unemployable outside of their chosen field, working on taxpayer salaries. So it is an interesting revelation that these excursions, which were, first thought to teach kids about the country and about the democratic process and about Parliament House and the irrelevance of it all, is actually now seen as more of a warning for young kids after 10 prime ministers in as many years. Now, speaking of the vulnerable, Domino's has been referred to the ACCC this week for targeting vulnerable men with predatory Sunday text messages.
Yeah, I don't know about you, Clancy, but I never really fold to that type of marketing, and to be honest, I wouldn't put that shit in my body anyway.
I'm sad to say I actually have crumbled. Very predatory by Domino's, and I hope they are cautioned and or punished by the ACCC, who really actually haven't proven themselves to do much like that in the finance sector, but maybe they can punch down on Domino's. Speaking of industrial nightmares, another story this week, the NBN have started to mail out urine sample jars as the network begins to literally take the piss.
Yes, they are literally asking for people to piss in cups and to send it to them, obviously, for some weird purpose. I used to think when they used to take the piss back in the day that all of this was going back to the office of the communications minister, where, you know, you've got perverts like Malcolm Turnbull who'd probably like to drink it. I think that Mitch Fifield is the type of person who would be opening those jars and pouring it on himself in his office, just, you know, to cover himself in the piss that he's taken from all these hard-working Australians.
Yes, definitely. And
you know what they say, Clancy? You aren't a real man until you've drank another man's piss. And speaking of pissing in the outdoors, our last article this week, it was a study: going bushwalking on the weekend makes you better than everyone. Clancy, you don't look like the bushwalking type.
No, definitely more of a trouser type. I have tried my hand at it over the years, and it's not really for me, particularly out here with all the thistle. But yes, that is a recurring theme. You do meet in people who go bushwalking. They do think they're better than anyone else, and they actually have their own uniform.
Each to their own, Clancy. I mean, I go hiking every now and then, but it's usually up into the hills to pick mushrooms. Mm-hmm. As a journalist, I don't really get paid that much, so I like to supplement my income.
Selling hallucinogenic e-liquid.
Yeah, I go and pick mushrooms in the autumn and the springtime, and of course, you know and I know that I've got quite a grow-up happening under my garage at home, where I've been growing lots of hydroponic weed for the Comancheros for almost 10 years now.
Well, you know, that is a good way of supplementing your income. Some journalists have been known to turn informant and get paid off by the local police for providing information on crimes they're struggling to solve. Others do go and work for the dark side and help advise local politicians and write favourable stories about them. But, you know, none of that happens at the Betoota Advocate because we're a proud independent newspaper. We just, of course, as you pointed out, Errol, have to sell drugs to get by.
All right, this train wreck of a news bulletin has gone on long enough, Clancy. I think we've put them through enough. So until next week, hopefully Wendell and Bruce are back next week. But if they're not, I'll see you then. My name is Errol Parker, and you have a wonderful afternoon.
I'm Clancy Errol. Be kind to each other.